Mr. Mara, enough. Please fix this dumpster fire. That's what a New York Giants paid to have a plane drag this banner say over Metlife Stadium as we saw a joke of a football game unfold at this terrible stadium. On today's show, I'm going to tell you why Mr. John Mara needs to pull the plug and fire Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. I want to hear from you first, though, in the comments section. Do you think it needs to happen again? Do they need to clean house and put, hopefully, the right people in position of power? Type Y for yes, type N for no. You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. We're going to break it all down on today's show as a joke of a football game unfolded for Big Blue yesterday. Probably the most down bad this organization has ever been. It resulted in me jumping up and down and showing enthusiasm about them losing a football game, because that's the only thing right now that makes me feel anything for the New York Giants. I know a lot of people are going to be like, Marshall, you flip, you flop. You know what? I have flipped and flopped. And I should have stuck with my gut feeling back after week 2 when I said the Giants should fire Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. And I am back on that train, and I'm not coming off it. And you might say, well, Marshall, you want them to lose games, and they're doing it. Why can't you ever be happy? Well, that doesn't mean they get an excuse. Just because I, Marshall Green, the YouTuber, have recognized and understood that it is best for this team to lose games the remainder of the season to increase the probability of getting that number 1 overall pick, doesn't mean John Mara should keep Joe Schoen for the lousy roster that he has put together. Doesn't mean they should keep Brian Daboll for the lousy coaching job that he has done this year. Yesterday was a joke. That was maybe the worst football team I've seen assembled for the New York Giants, and I've seen Jake Fromm take snaps for this football team. I've seen Dave Gettleman be pushed out of the building because they didn't think that he could do anything right anymore. People were literally being paid to go watch the Giants yesterday. That's how cheap tickets were. And they wouldn't go do it. You could go sit lower bowl for $37. There were tickets that costed $1 yesterday before the game against the New Orleans Saints. And people would not go. They don't care about Joe Schoen anymore. We don't care about Brian Daboll anymore. And we have no hope for this football team. I love what Gary Myers wrote yesterday about what the Giants should do. And just listen up. One of the barometers Wellington Mara used when evaluating change at the top was whether the fans were still showing up late in the season. The Giants have 3 home games remaining, including today. Mara always said he could handle the fans booing because it showed they still cared. No-shows equaled indifference, and that he couldn't handle. People don't even care enough to go pay $37 and use a promo code that gets them $20 off to go watch this team play football. You could have paid $17 to go watch this team in the lower bowl at Metlife Stadium, and no one would go do it because no one cares, because no one believes. No one trusts the process. And I preach process over results. The process sucks, and the results are even worse. It is year 3. It is year 3 for Joe Schoen. It is year 3 for Brian Daboll. You were supposed to be competing at the bare minimum to win the NFC East this year, but you're not even close to that. You were competing for the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. The Giants are worse now than they were when Dave Gettleman was forced into retirement and Joseph Judge was the head coach of this football team. This roster is in really bad shape. Like, really bad. And it's because of the draft classes. The 2022 draft class is a joke. The 2023 draft class was even worse. And you're lucky the 2024 draft class has some hope. Because if that wasn't the case, I think you already would have been fired, Mr. Joe Schoen, who I think deserves the entire blame pie of this mess that he has cooked up, that he is calling the New York Football Giants. There is a long list of moves that have not worked out, and we're not going to go into that on today's show. We've done all that before. We've seen all the great players leave. We've seen every single person that has left has had more success. Even guys like Mark Lewinsky is now starting for a football team. Every move he has made has almost ended in a miss. And I want to go back to the quote that Joe Schoen told us in his introductory press conference as the Giants general manager. He was asked, Joe, do you think you're going to have to tear all this down and rebuild it back up? He said, no, I don't believe in rebuilds. I believe you can compete for today and build for tomorrow. Let's break that down. Compete for today. We'll call today the 2022 season. You competed. You got to the playoffs, and you won a playoff game. But how on earth did you build for tomorrow? Because 2023, you were worse. And then in 2024, you were the worst team in the National Football League. You competed with a roster that wasn't yours, and then you tried to build for the future, and that roster that you built, it cannot compete. Joe Schoen cannot be the general manager of the New York Football Giants in 2025. Now is the perfect time to hit the eject button on his seat as the head of football operations for this organization. You're heading into the NFL draft with most likely a top 3 pick in the first round, in the second round, in the third round, fourth round, so on and so forth. You're going to have $65 million in cap space, and maybe more if the cap rises more than they thought, like Joe Schoen could not anticipate last year, and that is why he was not able to pay Saquon Barkley and Xavier McKinney. And what I'm most afraid of is he's going to start making moves to save his job instead of making moves that are best for the long-term future of the New York Giants, because those are two different things. Joe Schoen is going to make moves now that are going to help now and sacrifice the future, instead of making the moves now that may not help you right now, but may make you better in the future. He's going to be he's going to be general managing for his life. And the last thing the Giants need to do is put a lame duck in the general manager seat after he already made a fool of himself on Hard Knocks and give him the ability to run this franchise into the dirt yet again. Like, even with the 2024 draft class, he's batting 330. He's batting .33 in the NFL draft. And that is giving him the benefit of the doubt, saying all these rookies that you selected in 2024 are going to be great. We need to start realizing that these players need time for them to grow and for us to evaluate them. Because we all would have said after year one, Daniel Bellinger was a stud. We all would have said that a guy that they've drafted at multiple spots would have been studs, like Deonte Banks and John Michael Schmitz. And none of them have panned out. That's probably a deeper problem, the development. And that's because we have family members in important positions on the New York Giants. Like, is he going to be able to build around the right quarterback? Are you going to be able to build and, one, select the right quarterback, two, then build a roster around that right quarterback? I don't believe so. I also believe his eye for quarterback talent is a joke. Maybe the worst in the NFL at the general manager position. You gave Daniel Jones $92 million and everybody laughed at you. You then paid Drew Lock $5 million when he could have went out and traded a 6th-round pick for Justin Fields, or paid Russell Wilson, the veteran, a minimum. You then, as an organization, decided that playing Tommy DeVito over Drew Lock was the best decision to spark the fan base. Joe Schoen, you are a clown, and you have run this organization into the dirt, and you should no longer. I don't want you involved with this organization, and I hope you never get to make another decision that has any sort of powerful repercussions for this team, because you have been a joke since you got here. An absolute joke. Pick one to keep, though. I get asked every day, Marshall, do you think they're going to do it? Do you think they're going to clean house? I don't know. I really don't know. I hope John Mayer smartens up and does what's best for this team. But pick one to keep, Brian Daboll or Joe Schoen. We'll talk about Brian Daboll and why I think he also deserves to be fired, but I do think Joe Schoen deserves more so. We'll talk about that first, though. I got to tell you about our proud sponsor, GameTime. I love GameTime because you get the best seats for the lowest prices guaranteed. Prices actually drop as the events get closer. And if you use that promo code ChatSports, you're going to get $20 off your first purchase where terms do apply. You get to see your seat view in the app. You get to access your tickets from your phone, and it's easy to resell your tickets if you no longer want to go to the game. Use from the seats. Lowest price guaranteed. You could have went to the Giants game. I took this screenshot right before the game started. You see 9 o'clock. You could have went to the Giants game and sat lower bowl for $37 because prices drop as the events get closer, and the app will alert you when flash deals were going on. They let me know we were getting a great deal right here sitting in the 100 section for $37. You could have went for $17 if you use the promo code ChatSports, and maybe you don't even want to do that. But if you're going to go to a concert, a theater event, or so on and so forth, use the promo code ChatSports. That's ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase where terms do apply. Look, I do think in a world, there is a way that Brian Daboll can be the head coach of a successful football team. We saw that in 2022. I can't say the same for Joe Schoen because that was not his football team. That was Dave Gettleman's football team. But I do think Brian Daboll can be that guy. I just don't think it will ever be with the New York Football Giants. I want to keep this as surface level as possible. You hired Brian Daboll for what reason? Because he was the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, the best offense in the National Football League. to come and fix the New York Football Giants offense. You have not. They are a worse offense under your control, Brian Daboll. So much so, the best offense that they had under your control was when you were not the offensive coordinator. It was Mike Kafka. And then you fired him, but then upgraded him in your coaching staff, and you took over his play calling. And since Brian Daboll has taken over play calling, the New York Giants average 14.9 points per game. The worst in the NFL. 2 whole points lower than the 31st ranked scoring offense. You are 2 entire points lower than every other team in the National Football League. QB guru, offensive savant. He helped Josh Allen. I can't believe I fell for that dumb shit. Josh Allen was always going to be great. Brian Daboll didn't do anything for Josh Allen. There's a reason that he's cooked with every coordinator he's been since then. Offensive savant, right? Well, you're averaging 14.9 points per game. The worst in the NFL. You barely average 300 total yards. Bottom 6 in the NFL. Passing yards. Bottom 5 in the NFL. Third down conversions. Bottom 9 in the NFL. Not to mention your fourth down decision-making makes no sense. You always just say that it's an analytically driven decision. So you went forward on 4th and 8 in the beginning of the game yesterday. Then you didn't go forward on 4th and 4 in the fourth quarter. But then you did go forward on 4th and 2 later. It just makes no sense. But this is what matters. Head coaches are judged off wins and losses. And Brian Daboll did a lot of winning at the beginning of the season for the New York Giants in 2022. But since then, since that love affair and kind of honeymoon stage was over and that smell wore off, Brian Daboll has been a terrible head coach. The Giants under Brian Daboll in his last 42 games are 12, 29, and 1. You don't deserve to keep your job. You don't. I don't give a shit about the turnover. Oh, Marshall, we can't keep firing these people. The reason we are in this position is because we keep firing these people. So you're telling me if we would have kept Dave Gettleman, we would have kept Joe Judge, we'd be in a better spot than we were right now? Absolutely not. The problem is you keep hiring the wrong people. How about you get the right people in here? How about you get the right general manager? How about you get the right head coach and you let them cook? Because all of the general managers and head coaches the New York Giants have fired that you tell me that we can't keep firing, where have they been successful otherwise? Has Pat Shurmur been a successful head coach somewhere? Has Joe Judge? Has Ben McAdoo? No. Is Dave Gettleman the GM somewhere? Is Reese the general manager somewhere? Do you think that a team is going to hire Joe Schoen to be their GM? Get the frauds out of here and get real football-minded people in here that have been there and done that. And go get Mike Vrabel. That's what you do. This team's a joke. There is no control, and there is no belief. Get someone that this team will respect. Go get Mike Vrabel. It needs to be cleaned up. You have no identity. You need someone that could be a head football coach. That's had success. That's played in the NFL. I like that about Mike Vrabel. He's won Super Bowls. He knows what it takes. Go do it. Fire Joe Schoen. And I do think there is a world where Brian Daboll could be a good head coach. And I like the idea of him working with a young QB. But you got to earn the job if you want to keep the job. And he hasn't done that. He hasn't done that. Who do you want as next year's head coach? If it's Brian Daboll, let me know. There's not too many coaches that are available there's not a lot of coaches available that I would take above Brian Daboll. If I had to power rank my head coaches for next year, he's probably still in my top 5. But he's probably closer to 5. Who do you want? Let me know, and make sure you are following me on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, @MarshallGreen_. Hit me up, and let's go Big Blue.